Two guys and a goalie.
I think we're going to see some big things from Evander Kane this year.
You think so? Like if he stays healthy, like 40 goals or something?
He's used to Edmonton now. He's solidified, I think, his place in the dressing room. I think there's a comfort factor that takes a little bit of time.
Two guys and a goalie with Gager, Cassian, and Nielsen. Tuesday and Thursdays at noon. Only on Edmonton Sports Talk. Friend of EST, Eric Thomas, takes you around the track all the way to the checkered flag on Raceline Radio. Tuesday nights at 8 and Saturday morning at 9. Only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Get to know the winners, props, plays, parlays, and more with Nielsen and Hustler. Weekday mornings at 11 on The Lock Shop. Only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Don't feel like working? Join the Hangout. You never know what you might hear. Weekday mornings 9 to 11 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. The Elks Call is the newest Edmonton Elks podcast located in Edmonton, discussing everything Elks. Join friends of EST, Scout and Catherine, Friday nights at 8 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. The Oil Stream.
Last summer on the Oil Stream, you and I discussed the possibility of Gagne coming back here on a PTO. He signed with Winnipeg and got an actual contract.
Anytime you can have Sam Gagne involved in your organization in any way, it's a major positive for you.
They love him.
The Oil Stream with Nielsen and Gazzola. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon. Only on Edmonton Sports Talk. Tom Gazzola and Sean Bell take you on a hot lap around the NHL with Hello Hockey. Saturday mornings at 10, only on Edmonton Sports Talk. Catch up with friends of EST, Andrew, Mike, and Kayla as they get you in the huddle with the Edmonton Elks on the Turf District. Thursday nights at 8, EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Join friend of EST, Guy Flaming, for the Pipeline Show, Monday nights at 8 and Saturday at noon, as he has you covered with CHL, CJHL, USHL, NAHL, NCAA, and U Sports, plus the World Juniors, Frozen Four, and NHL Draft on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Get all the latest news and takes on everything Oilers with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola on the Oil Stream. Live at noon, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. Only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Join Murray McCourt and Curtis Stock for tips and tales from courses around Edmonton and area with the VIP Golf Show, presented by the Tailor Made Performance Center at the Ranch. Sundays at 8:30. Only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Lock Shop. Huss, what's up, buddy? How you doing, man?
I'm in good spirits, dude. Big weekend coming up. We've got some CFL tonight and tomorrow, a full slate of NFL games on Sunday. Still wrapping my head around that game from last night. What a weird-ass game we had to kick off week 2 with that win by the Eagles over the Minnesota Vikings. But it's good, and obviously you were coming to us live from the Queen City before tonight's Elks Riders tilt.
I am at the Delta in Regina, where the internet sometimes can be a little sketchy, but I'm not streaming out. I'm just connecting back to you guys. So hopefully things go pretty well here, Huss. Fill me in because I watched the first half at the airport last night. My flight was delayed by about 40 minutes, so I got to watch the entire first half. Second half was just starting when I was getting on the plane. So explain to me what ended up happening in the second half of that football game.
Well, first off, the first half, I can't believe Philadelphia was. Listen, I guess when you turn the football over 3 times the way the Minnesota Vikings did, you're lucky to be in the game. But the Vikes actually played quite well, and the Eagles looked not great. And yet they were up 13-7. Getting into the second half, Philly looked like they were going to run away with the game once they got their offense going a little bit. And then Minnesota came back. Justin Jefferson is simply unguardable. I think he got up to about 160, maybe 159 or something last night. But obviously the key play of the entire game was the Justin Jefferson fumble that got ruled out at the 1. They reviewed it, and it ended up being fumbled through the end zone. And when you look at that, Dusty, I mean, that essentially was a 7-point turnover. I mean, he literally fumbled it on the goal line. That would have gone in. And then when you're talking about a game, by the way, shout out to the odds makers. I mean, this can't believe we got a push on Thursday night right off the bat. But it was a game that the Eagles let them in. And I was personally and anyone that was with me on the Ride with Huss parlay, Rashad Penny, welcome to the shit list, because that holding penalty, in a lot of ways, that holding penalty was what got the Vikings back into the game, because beautiful dime to AJ Brown, touchdown. That would have ticked off our final thing that we needed to happen for that 6-1 heater. And then they went back to him and it was just short and ended up punting. And that was the break the Vikings needed to at least get it to a 1-score game. And they just didn't have enough time on it. But takeaways from this, the Vikings offense is good. And I mean, I feel bad for Kirk Cousins. He goes 4 touchdowns, no picks, but it was the fumbles that ended up killing the Minnesota Vikings last night. And as I say, I think the jury's still out on this Philadelphia Eagles team.
Yeah.
Again, it's early. They're 2-0. So what are they really worrying about? But unlike the way we saw San Francisco come out of the gate, if we're talking about the NFC favorites, the Cowboys looked incredible. The Niners looked incredible. The Eagles, in my opinion, right now have just been so. But again, they actually did cover. They pushed. They're 2-0 right now. I'm sure people aren't worrying too much in Philly.
Yeah, that's a weird thing when you look at it, is that I guess that's the expectations we have for them, right? You're sitting there going, I don't know about the Eagles, but they're 2-0. I mean, they started and they don't look great just yet, but they're still finding ways to win, which I think is actually pretty important. Marshall in the YouTube chat says the Vikings just beat themselves again, which you can look at. I think I saw something yesterday, Huss. What was it? Kirk Cousins has completed over 70% of his passes. Like, the numbers have been ridiculous through 2 starts. He's like one of the only quarterbacks ever to put up the numbers that he's put up in 2 losses to start the season. So that's obviously a little bit of a concern for the Minnesota Vikings. But yeah, an interesting way. And it's funny. We watched all week. We saw that line start at 7, and then it dips down to 6.5. And then we're sitting there going, oh, it's at 6 now. This is great. And sure enough, what happens? It ends up being right at 6 on the nose, which is just welcome back to the NFL betting season. That's just how it works.
Well, listen, I mean, I feel fortunate because, we'd been talking about it at 6.5 and at 7. And obviously for the parlay, it was at 6.5. I think if AJ Brown gets that touchdown, it's back to 20 points, and that sucker's not getting
It also would have hit the over 1.5 passing touchdowns, which was the play of the day yesterday for Jalen Hurts. So yeah.
By the way, just a quick fantasy note from the game for everyone that put DeAndre Swift on the waiver wire because he basically didn't touch the football. There's the thing about Philly. I mean, their defense looked awesome at times. Certainly the pass rush is devastating, but they had a tough time covering Justin Jefferson. And obviously Addison had that massive one. But my God, is that offensive line lethal? Like, I mean, they can get a few yards whenever they like, it seems. And I'm not sure we've ever seen a more unstoppable short yardage formation than what Philly does on the goal line. But I mean,
it's cheating. It's just
Penny
cheating.
had that massive game, and it could have been even bigger. I mean, as someone that's got hurt, thank God he got those 2 rushing touchdowns. It was very close to an even bigger game for DeAndre Swift. And again, all Penny did was screw us with that holding penalty, trying to protect his quarterback. But yeah, it was a fun game. I mean, certainly we all enjoyed it watching the game last night. But Minnesota 0-2 right now, and I kind of think they probably deserve a little bit better of a fate. But when you don't take care of business at home against a team like the Bucs, even if you do play well, but when you turn the football over, ball security, they won that game going away. And Marshall is right. The Vikes beat themselves again.
We're going to get into our best bets for the rest of the week here in the National Football League. We should note that we do have some lock shop partner parlays available right now. If you go to coolbet.com and click on the exclusives page, there are 3 parlays in there right now, including an Edmonton Sports Talk parlay, the Alberta Golden Bears plus 6.5, and the Elks plus 2.5. So you got that one up there. That's plus 335. They both play tonight. We locked in our NFL lock shop partner parlay on yesterday's episode. Give you some more time to get on it. That's at 610 right now. Green Bay Packers plus 1.5. The Niners minus 6.5 and Miami minus 2.5. And then we do have that CFL lock shop partner parlay that you can still get on. Argos minus 6.5, Bombers minus 6.5, and BC minus 9.5 as we ride with the 3 best teams and pretty big numbers this week in the Canadian Football League. Huss, you want to go back and forth on these games again this week? Sorry, Huss, are you muted? I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
And I don't mind leading off because, and again, this is a little strange to me. I'm not exactly sure why this line is moving the way it is. And again, maybe this is the time to listen to your spidey senses and maybe stay away from this game. But we talked about it yesterday. We've got it in on the partner parlay. I really like the Green Bay Packers going into Atlanta. Now, I know that they went into Chicago and played a team that they've historically owned. Jordan Love looked great, though. The Packers can run the football, and I love their defense. And I mean, I did watch a good portion of that Atlanta-Carolina game last week.
Yeah.
And Carolina just wasn't really able to stop the run, but Desmond Ridder did almost nothing through the air. And I think to beat a team like Green Bay, they're going to have to be a lot more balanced than Atlanta looks like they are going to be right now. This game was -1. At one point, it was -1.5 for Green Bay. Yesterday, when we were doing the parlay, it was -1.5, and now the Packers are getting 2. So
yeah, I think something like Aaron Jones hasn't practiced this week. So I think that's probably where that's coming from. But at the same time, AJ Dillon's an excellent running back anyway.
Totally.
Right. So
and a little bit more on Jordan Love to show what he can do. And and this is the thing with Love, as opposed to all these other, the new quarterbacks. Some of them are rookies. He's not. He's been waiting for this opportunity for 3 years. And I think it's pretty clear the Green Bay Packers were quite confident that he was ready for prime time. And he certainly looked the part in week number 1. So I'm going to start this off by taking the Packers +2 on the road in Atlanta.
Just quickly kind of tying this into the Packers here. A quick text to 780-218-9999. If you are listening right now live on EdmontonSportsTalk.com, feel free to chime in. 780-218-9999. Guys, my opponent had Aaron Rodgers, of course, formerly of the Green Bay Packers at quarterback. He dropped him, and of course, he picked up Kurt on the waiver wire, and Kirk Cousins dropped 36 points last night. So it happens. It happens, doesn't it? That's how it works. That's how it works. All right. So Huss, you're starting with the Packers, eh?
I am. Packers +2 for pick number 1.
All right. This was a tough week for me. It was week 2. Like last week, there were a few games that really jumped off the page for me. It's like, I got to be on these. I think we saw that. We were both on Cleveland right away. It was like a no-brainer. This week was a little bit more difficult, but I'm not going to overthink this. If you want to call me a homer for doing it, but I'm going to take the Detroit Lions -4.5 here, opening up at home after coming off a win against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I guess my main reason here, Huss, would be, and I'll ask you this because I know you were thinking about Seattle, especially when the number was a little bit higher earlier in the week. But what about Seattle getting pumped at home by 18 or 17 or whatever it was to the Rams? All of a sudden, it's had this line moving in that direction. Like they got crushed.
You know what? I think people listen, there's a lot of people that are quite high on Seattle that were stunned how bad they looked against the Rams. And I think maybe just sort of giving them a bit of a mulligan. And then, of course, thinking about the game between these two teams last year, similarly early in the schedule, that was an insane back and forth that ended up being a Seattle 48-45 win over the Detroit Lions. This game opened at 6. I wasn't surprised that there was some Seattle
Came
action
down a
on
bit.
it.
Yeah.
And I do have the Seattle, like I got in early and have Seattle +6 on a couple of parlays that we put together, like right when the games came out. But this, to be honest, makes a little more sense. This line in the -4.5, -4, I think is more an area where you can really consider Detroit. But listen, the Lions, for all the hype and the fact that they won in Kansas City, I think realize that they can be much, much better. And we all know that Seattle can be a hell of a lot better. So if I had to lean one way or the other, I still think that Seattle can make this a game and keep it tight. But listen, I don't blame you for feeling the excitement.
I think you got to feel confident. I mean, if they decided they wanted to throw holding flags last week, I think things would have gone a little bit better for the Detroit Lions, because that defensive front for the Detroit Lions with 4-man pressure, they were causing major issues last week for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I know the Chiefs weren't healthy, but were they missing any offensive linemen? I don't think they were missing any offensive linemen. So to me, I mean, I look at it, and I think that Detroit defense is going to cause some major issues for a team that couldn't do anything against a Rams defense that isn't even as good as it used to be. So Detroit's at home. I think they're going to roll. I think they're going to roll over Seattle. So I'm going to take them at 4.5. I might have even taken them at 6 in this situation. I know Kansas City was missing Travis Kelce last week. Obviously another big piece as well. But the Detroit Lions went into Arrowhead the night they raised a banner and beat the defending Super Bowl champions. I think they can handle the Seattle Seahawks here as well. I mean, maybe they end up squeaking one out at home, but I think it's time that we start taking Detroit as a serious contender in the NFC. And I'm not sure we can say about Seattle right now. So I'm going to get on Detroit -4.5 in my most homer Detroit rant ever in the history of the Lock Shop.
Will Detroit be paying off Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf or one of the receivers to be a sleeper agent and drop everything thrown at them, with the exception of a nice little libero?
With that being said, Geno Smith ain't Patrick Mahomes. I think we've seen this. Early season Geno Smith last year, that guy's not around anymore. That guy wasn't around at the end of the season last year. So
he looked like Dan Marino against the Lions last year.
Last year, at the beginning of the year, he did. Now he just looks like Geno Smith again. So I take Jared Goff over Geno Smith every single day of the week. So Detroit Lions -4.5. Let's just get that one out of the way right now. And hey, if you want to hop in, you want to tease things one way or the other, you want to try to take this game down to 3, 2.5, feel better about it, you can go ahead and do that. But for our official picks, I'm going to get on Detroit here -4.5.
Pick number 2. I'm going to an AFC North matchup between two teams that we expected are going head-to-head for a division title. Neither looked particularly good. One team, though, looked a lot worse than the other. And, of course, I'm speaking about the Ravens and the Bengals. Now, the Ravens beat the Texans, who we expect to be one of the worst teams in the league. Rookie C.J. Stroud making his NFL debut. They were the biggest favorite on the board. And they won, but I mean, a really quiet day, especially anyone that had Lamar Jackson in fantasy knows that, they did not do much. Obviously, they lose J.K. Dobbins, which is impactful to them going forward. It's going to be Gus Edwards and Justice Hill. And then there was the Bengals, who looked out of sorts. The Joe Burrow never got things going. I think he looked uncomfortable in the rain and basically looked like a guy that had missed the better part of training camp. The line on this number is at 3.5. And I think at this point, and this is subject to change, but I'm almost putting in a betting rule for the AFC North this season that when we're doing the lock shop and I see any of these teams playing against each other and one of them is getting more than 3 points, I am taking it. Nothing that Cincinnati did last week makes me think that they're going to be winning or covering a number, never mind potentially winning against a solid team like Baltimore. Could Cincinnati win this game? Absolutely. But I don't know how there's any play other than taking the 3.5 with the Baltimore Ravens against the Cincinnati Bengals in this game. Those AFC North games are notoriously close. They often come down to 1 point here, a field goal there. I could see Baltimore winning this game outright. I certainly think that they'll be in it right now. I love Baltimore plus 3.5 against the Bengals. That is pick number 2.
I do think I like Cincinnati on the money line in this game. I mean, if you look what happened with Baltimore last week, if it's the 3.5, I mean, I completely understand where you're coming from. If for some reason this was a 2.5, I'd be on the Bengals all day. I think they win this game probably by, a field goal-ish type of area. If you look at Baltimore last week, they also, I think 2 of their offensive linemen went down last week, and I don't think they practiced so far this week. So that's something you might want to double check on too. Plus, once they lost J.K. Dobbins, and you mentioned it, Lamar was basically trash last week. The other 2 guys, Gus Edwards and Justice Hill, I think they averaged like less than 3 yards per carry after coming into the game for J.K. Dobbins, or even while they were getting touches while J.K. Dobbins was in the game. So I'm very hesitant on the Ravens as much as we are on the Bengals as well. I mean, the Bengals can't possibly be that bad again, right? Like Joe Burrow's not going to go and throw for 82 yards.
No, we talked about in Cleveland, but for whatever reason, Cleveland has Cincy's number, especially in those home games. I mean, they played them very, very well. And these games have gone sort of back and forth. I think this is just going to be a typical close AFC North game.
The plus 3.5, you have to be on that side.
I'm taking Baltimore.
You pretty much have to be on that side with the plus 3.5. Okay, I'm gonna go back to one of the picks that we talked about yesterday when Pat Gregor was on with us. I'm gonna take Miami. Again, I'm going to hop into Miami. We moved that to 2.5 for the partner parlay yesterday. It's still sitting there at 3 on the road against New England Patriots. When Tua is healthy, and I'm still not sure. And I know you like the Dolphins on a bunch of year-long props, and Tua on that comeback player of the year, which if he continues to throw for over 400 yards a game, that's going to look really, really, really good. But look, when Tua's healthy and you've got Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, that is a lot to handle for anybody. Last week, the New England Patriots, I guess you could say it's a little bit game scripted, but they didn't run the ball near as much as they had last season with Ramondre Stevenson, which is why in fantasy, I think if anybody was panicking, just calm down. They're going to get the ball to this guy. You don't have to worry about that. But Bill Belichick, since Tom Brady left, is 3-6 against the spread as an underdog at home. So there's no legendary, but Bill Belichick against the spread at home. Well, without Tom Brady, he's just your average NFL coach, and there's nothing special about it. So I don't know. I don't know if New England has the offense to keep pace with what Tua is likely going to be able to do here. And I don't know if it was you or Pat yesterday on the Lock Shop, but basically, I think it was Patty actually said, if this game was in mid to late November, different story. We're sitting here in week 2, mid-September. Weather should not be such of an impact that all of a sudden the New England Patriots can play this hard-nosed style of football. I think the Dolphins can open this thing up again, and I will take them minus the 3 points on the road in New England.
Yeah, this is going to be a real fun game. Is this a noon game or a late game? I'm just looking at the.
I think it's one of the later games. I could be wrong. Let me just
big slate of it is. Oh, it's the night game.
Oh, it's a Sunday nighter. Yeah, it's a Sunday nighter. Yeah.
Beautiful. What do we have? We always go out and I go to the bar down the street and hook up with my buddies, and it's so great. We've got like full Sunday tickets. So you've got 7 different games for the early. And there's nothing that makes me more angry that when you get to the late games, there's only like 3 games. There was a great split last week with 5 late games going into the night one. The late game
confusion corner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay, I've been there with you. I've been there with you.
You've awesome. Been there with me.
It's a great setup, man. God. I wanted to be there last week, but I had to fly home. Remember, I was like, "Oh man, what time is my flight?" And I couldn't make it work.
We'll work that out the next time you come around for Bomber football here in Winnipeg. But yeah, Giants Cardinals are late. Niners Rams is late. Jets Cowboys is late. And the Commanders and Broncos. I'm not sure if there's going to be a single good game out of those 4 games that are late, but we've got some other ones. Well, you know what? I'm going to go to one of those games for my pick number 3. And this is one we talked about when we were getting into the partner parlay yesterday. But the San Francisco 49ers laying 7.5. I know that's a big number. I don't necessarily like to do that, especially for teams on the road, especially for teams in the division. But this is different. Traditionally, I think Patty made it, kind of laid it out yesterday. For whatever reason, Kyle Shanahan just has Sean McVay's number in regular times. And now when you look at these two rosters, to me, this kind of looks like a mismatch. Now, the Rams were awesome last week and far exceeded my expectations, especially without Cooper Kupp. But they were not able to run the football last week. I mean, Cam Akers had 29 yards on 22 carries against Seattle. What's that going to be like against Bosa and that Niner defense? And I think they're moving up a couple weight classes when we talk about what the Niners have in the middle of their defense and in their secondary. Was impressed with what Matt Stafford did, but I just think that this is a very, very tough spot for them. And of course, they're playing at home in SoFi. That place is going to be half full of Niner fans. You can pretty much book it. So I don't think the home field is going to make much of a difference either. This one opened at 8, which was a big number. And I think that spoke to where the odds makers feel that these two teams are and kind of working in the history between these two clubs. It's at 7.5 right now. I think the Niners win comfortably by double digits. So I'm going to lay the 7.5 with San Francisco for my third pick of the best bets.
I can't get away from it. I also have San Francisco at this number as well. So I will ride with you on this one for my third pick. Like, look at what San Francisco did. And by all accounts, if you were to go and compare the defenses of the Rams and the Steelers, most people you would talk to, from what I've been seeing at least, would say that the Steelers are bringing more to the table defensively than the Rams are right now. And the Steelers could do nothing in their powers to slow down the Niners last week. So I'm not 100% sure if the Rams can do that as well, anywhere close to the level that the Steelers were at last week. So the history that you've already kind of laid out in this game, and look, Purdy has the weapons, and he appears to know how to use them, right? And the whole offensive scheme knows how to use them. But Brandon Ayuk looks like a legitimate threat. Debo's still a little bit of a freak as well. You got Kittle. Christian McCaffrey basically can win football games by himself. So you do make a really good point on the lack of a true home field advantage in this game for the Rams as well. So I will ride with you on the Niners here, minus 7.5. That was actually probably my second favorite play of the day for Sunday. So let's ride together on the Niners here. And usually that works out well for us, whether it's CFL or NFL. So we'll see if it happens.
Who is the famous lock shopper that said, if Dusty and Huss agree, it's a bet for me? Well, there you go. Niners minus 7.5 against the Rams. Yeah. So now we get back down to our fourth pick. And I've actually got an adjusted pick that I'm going to put in my parlay, my ride with Huss. Do you have any thoughts on this Colts-Texans game? Texans minus 1 at home. Battle of two rookie QBs.
I shouldn't have any thoughts on this game because we shouldn't care about this game at all. But it's funny you bring that up because a couple of times I looked at it in my initial reaction. I'm not betting it for any of our picks, but my initial reaction was, I think I take the Colts. But I don't know why that was my initial reaction. I didn't dive into this much at all. But my instant, if somebody was like, hey, pick now, I think I'd take the Colts, but I'm not sold on it either way.
I mean, Washington at Denver. Washington didn't look great getting past Arizona from what we expect Arizona. And then there's the Broncos that, found a way to lose at home in Sean Payton's debut to the Raiders. No way I'm jumping on either of those teams. The Raiders are taking on the Bills. And I guess this is what it's kind of come down to me. There's a few options for this final pick.
Yep.
Do we take one of the good teams or teams that we think are good that got embarrassed last week for a big, big bounce back? The Bills have the Raiders at home. The Bills are laying 8.5, which is a big, big number. And the other number, if you had told me that I would even be considering laying down legitimate Canadian currency on the New York Giants after what we saw on Sunday night, think you were crazy. However, This one opened at 5.5. The Cardinals, obviously, some people are so out on the Giants that they're actually betting on the Cardinals. And this number is at 4.5 right now. So that's a possibility. And then there's the Cowboys and the Jets. And to me, this is maybe the most interesting game in that the Cowboys look like an absolute wrecking crew against the Giants. Their defense looks to be Super Bowl caliber. And now it's Zach Wilson who's got to go in there and go up against it. But at the same time, that Jets defense looks so good.
Yeah.
Like, could I see a scenario where they just managed to hang in on the back of their defense?
19-12, something along those lines, right?
I actually can. So I'm going to stay away from the Cowboys laying that big number at home, even though there's certainly a good chance that, they get up, they score a bit, and that game is basically over in the first half. So you know what? I think I'm going to give the Giants a mulligan.
You are.
The thing about the Giants was, and I know there's a lot of people, and it was really popular for people to shit all over Danny Dimes, but he had no shot in that game. He literally had a guy in his face on him. I mean, 5-step drop, 3 steps back, and there was someone in him. So he was sacked so many times. I don't think that Arizona is going to be able to get anywhere close to the pressure that the Dallas Cowboys did. And I think that if that's the case, the Giants are set up to just completely move on from that embarrassment, get a win. Do I like laying 7.5 on the road on a team that just got shut out and lost by 40? No, I don't. But basically, this tells you what I think about the Arizona Cardinals this week. And I think actually when we look back, we'll be like, wow, can you imagine we only had to lay 4.5 on the Giants against the Cards? So this is probably my if we're power ranking the picks, I like the other 3, I think, with more confidence than this one. But I do have confidence that Brian Daboll gets this turned around and doesn't start with an 0-2 start, including a loss to the Arizona Cardinals, who were very capable of going 0-17 this year. So Giants minus 4.5, my 4th pick for today.
Considered the Giants myself. That Dallas Jets game is really interesting. I don't expect the Jets to really do anything offensively. It's just a matter of if the Cowboys, can do moderately good things against the Jets defense. So it's just too big for now. I'll probably throw it into a teaser somewhere along the lines. Let me ask you about this game. It's one that I'm considering. There's a couple here that I'm on, but we have not talked yet about the Kansas City Chiefs looking to bounce back off a loss, 3.5-point road favorites against Jacksonville, who gave them a pretty good push last year in the postseason. Huss, any general thoughts on this game? Where are you at right now on this one?
I think Kansas City will be way better than they were. I expect them to win this game, but to me, it's too many points. I mean, I think Jacksonville is going to be a problem. And frankly, I think these teams are going to be seeing each other again in January at some point in the playoffs. If this was 2.5, I would consider going with Kansas City. And it was 3 at the beginning. And I think I did put the Chiefs at minus 2.5 into that ticket with the Seahawks at 6 earlier on. But at 3.5, this game could absolutely come down to a field goal. I mean, Jacksonville's offense is that good. Now, hey, Chris Jones is going to be back. That'll be a big boost.
That'll help big time.
Kelsey to be there. So I'd love for the Chiefs to kind of, win this one comfortably, but I think they're going to have to play a full 60 minutes. And I personally would not have the confidence to lay 3.5. And if you're high on Jacksonville, which I know a lot of people are, I think you could do a lot worse than Jacksonville plus 3.5 as a home dog against Kansas City this weekend. But to me, it's a no bet on KC, and I don't like to bet against them on the other side.
Yeah, I do think I'm going to add the Jags plus the 3.5 here. I'd be very stunned if Kansas City opens the season 0-2, but this is not an easy spot. I'm going to get on the Jags here at plus 3.5. The other game I was considering, and I know Pat brought it up yesterday. Where are you at right now on the Chargers 3-point favorites going into Tennessee?
The Chargers? Listen, it was just an absolutely perfect start to the season for the Chargers last week. They did everything that we're used to them doing. Looking great offensively, not being able to stop anyone. And by the way, Brandon Staley is the defensive coach. I don't know how much time he's got left there, to be perfectly honest with you. But I mean, is there a team you can trust less to win, never mind cover, than the Chargers? Even though they're like
the Chargers,
they're awesome.
Yeah,
they're great. Here's a stat that is going to blow your mind, but it epitomizes everything that the Chargers have been for a long, long time. I just got to find it here. So the Chargers last week, here it is. Since 2000, teams that rushed for more than 200 yards, allowed fewer than 100 yards rushing against, didn't turn the ball over, and won the turnover margin by 2 or more were 110-0 till Sunday. And now the Chargers are the 1 in 110-1. And there's been a few times where you can go through and you get the Elias stats people working up going like, how the hell did they lose this game? I mean, they make history in new ways all the time. So
they look like a good team, right? They look like a really talented team. It's just
bottom line is there is no team I trust less than the Chargers. And even if they're playing against a sad sack team and there's a really no number, I still don't know whether I feel good about them covering the number. So they're just a no bet for me right now. And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what we got from Tennessee. Because listen, Tennessee, we don't think or talk about them very much. Mike Vrabel, heck of a coach. They're not going to be pleased about the way things. And I mean, man, they lost. They covered last week, but they lost 16-15 to the Saints. So it's their home opener. I think it's going to be tough. I mean, I'll be interested to see what happens in that game, but I don't really have a strong lean either way. And even if I was leaning the Chargers, I don't trust them enough to bet them.
Yeah, you make a very good case against the Chargers. I think they win this football game, but you're right. You can't trust the Chargers. So I'm on the Jags plus 3.5 at home against Kansas City. San Francisco minus 7.5, Miami minus 3, and Detroit minus 4.5 at home against the Seattle Seahawks. And Huss, who do you got? Just to recap there's another game I still want to talk about. There's one game we haven't hit on yet. We'll get to that, but just to recap our picks quickly. Who are your?
I am Green Bay plus 2, okay. Baltimore plus 3.5, Niners minus 7.5, and Giants minus 4.5. And I've got you written down here: Detroit minus 4.5, Miami minus 3, Niners minus 7.5 as well, and then getting a 3.5 with the Jags against the Kansas City Chiefs.
The one game we have not hit on at all has not been mentioned yet. Bears Bucs. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of eyes on the Bears and Bucs this week. What's the line? 3. Chicago's a 3-point underdog going into Tampa to take on the Bucs. Huss, do you have a lean one way or the other here? Is there something you would consider?
Well, you know what? It's funny, and this is sort of a nice little segue into our parlays. Because
yes,
we've got our partner parlay that's up right now, but I do have this game as part of a parlay I'm going to give to Pat and Jake in the weekly ride with Huss. The Bears are 3-point underdogs here. I like them to be in this game. I could even see them potentially winning the game. I guess the bottom line is I'm really not sold yet on Tampa. And even if Baker plays well, I mean, I think that there certainly is a game script that Chicago scores some points and looks a hell of a lot better than they did in that faceplant against the Packers last week. So I I didn't put them in the best bets because I certainly don't feel like they were one of the 4 best bets, but I really do like them at plus 3.5. Like, I think that they can keep this game within the field goal. So I've actually put together my parlay. I'm going to take 2 of my picks from our best bets. I'm taking Baltimore plus 3.5. I'm taking the Niners minus 7.5. And I'm going to add the Bears minus 3.5. If you want to just bet the Bears minus 3.5, I'm looking at minus 130 right now.
You mean the Bears plus 3.5?
Yeah. Sorry,
yeah,
Bears.
Yeah. Okay.
Bears plus 3.5 right now. Like, if you just want to bet the game straight right now, the Bears are minus 114 at plus 3. It's minus 130 for plus 3.5. And that's what I'm going to throw in. So, as I say, it didn't crack my best bets, but I'm not as off on Chicago as I think a lot of people are, maybe after a really disappointing opening game. So this one is plus 545 when I put it into CoolBet. So we might be able to get it close to plus 6 when Pat and Jake work their magic with it. So I'm going to send that one in there. Check that in the exclusives a little bit later on. But Baltimore plus 3.5, Chicago plus 3.5, and the Niners minus 7.5. That's going to be my ride with Huss this weekend.
Yeah, and I will be putting together, we'll have the lock shop play of the day. I'll probably be for some CFL action tonight. So watch for that on CoolBet Social a little bit later on. And I'll probably put together another teaser, like the one that hopefully we hit last week. So we'll do that. That'll be up as a ride with Dust over in the lock shop exclusive section. Big Uke is in it. Says plus 1228 for Hustlers 4 plays, if you want to put them all together.
I like
plus 1207 for Dusty. And if you want to combine all 7 of our picks, because we're both on the Niners, plus 89.53 if we can go 7 for 7 this week. So, you know what? Just a little sprinkle on the plus 89.53. And, you know, when you mentioned Patty and Jake using their magic, I like to imagine them sitting around like fairy god.
Delta Internet, folks.
Betting, and they've got a wand, and like the bets come in, and with the wand they just sort of tap the bets with. I don't know if I froze or not, Huss. There we go. I'm back. I'm back.
But, that was vintage Regina Delta Internet. We just heard something fairy godmother, and then 15 seconds later you were doing like this with the wand.
Yeah, the wand. That's it. Yeah, that's what I was. That's what I was kind of working on that one. So we like to imagine. Go check it out. There's a bunch of different parlays already up. We're going to add a couple more exclusives in there. They have a ton that they can get to as well. Canadian Football League, Huss, let's just circle back around to that here before we wrap, because action obviously begins tonight. We do have our parlay. Let me run you by that parlay one more time. It's plus 660. The Argos minus 6.5, the Bombers minus 6.5, and the Lions minus 9.5. Huss, we locked this in yesterday's show. And I know when we did it, we were like, oh man, we're taking 3 big favorites here. Which one of those games would worry you the most if you were worried about it? I know we're pretty confident in all 3 of them, but which one would worry you the most?
Well, I mean, I guess in some ways, like the Lions, I'm not sure I trust them after what happened with Hamilton. And I know I beat that one to death, but I'm still angry about how they screwed that parlay up. And I mean, they lost at home as like 11-point favorites against the Ticats in that game. Now, maybe as we talked about, hopefully because they got burned that way, that doesn't happen again. But 9.5 is a big number for BC. And I guess the other part of it is, I mean, the Argos, I mean, how long can they keep on just blasting teams by double digits each and every week? You know, it's sometimes hard to beat a team or throttle a team twice in a row. And they certainly did that to Montreal last week. So the back-to-back nature of that one, I think, gives me a little bit of pause. But, I mean, I don't know. You just look at these are by far the 3 best teams in the league. They're playing against opponents that certainly on paper are mismatched against them. It's a little chalky, but I'm all over the plus 660. And I guess we'll find out tonight quite early because we've got that Argos game going off tonight, as well as the game out in your neck of the woods in Regina. And then tomorrow, Bombers and BC having to cover some big numbers. And of course, you know, laying 6.5 on the road is not insignificant, but I just think Toronto and Winnipeg are that much better than the other teams. And as I say, I think BC gets right in this game against Ottawa after A couple of performances that weren't quite up to the standard that they laid out at the beginning of the year.
The one game that is not on the parlay is the one that I'll be calling tonight here at Mosaic. And that line's actually moved a little bit. Edmonton now a full field goal underdog against the Riders. This was 2.5 when we talked about it yesterday, isn't it? I think it's moved half a point.
Yeah, it was 2.5, but it was also like almost even money, or like maybe plus 102 or something like that. So it sort of did seem like I was happy to get it. And I certainly wouldn't have bet the Riders at 3. I thought that the 2.5 probably made it a situation where, and you were laying a little bit more. I think it was minus 120 or minus 125, maybe, if I recall correctly, when we got in on the Riders. But this should be a really good game. I mean, the more I think of it, and this is why I'm glad we didn't put it on the partner parlay. I could totally see the Elks winning this football game. I mean, they have been so close against Saskatchewan in the 2 games that they played this year, and I'm sure that's not lost on Chris Jones or anybody in that room. That being said, I mean, I think the Riders, definitely need to get right after getting just humiliated last week against the Bombers. But the last time they were at home, they looked pretty good. Jake Dolegala looked good. The big test is going to be, I think, for the Edmonton defense. If they can limit Dolegala like they did Mason Fine earlier this year, I think they'll be in good shape, and really looking forward to seeing what Trey Ford can do against that Rider defense.
Well, I was just going to say, if Jake or Pat are listening or watching today, we're going to need a Trey Ford rushing number. We hit the over on it last week. Right now, we've got Kevin Brown rushing and Jamal Morrow rushing. And I know Trey Ford's one of those unique freaks at quarterback, Huss. I honestly don't know how I would set that line every single week. Like, I don't know what you would do. I don't know how you would come to a conclusion on what a Trey Ford rushing prop should be.
Yeah, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I mean, he's been routinely getting 50, 60, 70 yards. I think he might have had a 100-yard game. Could be wrong on that.
No, he did have a 100-yard game. Yeah.
He did have a 100-yard game on the road. So, I mean, you're basically booking him like you would a top running back right now with the numbers that he's putting up. And certainly from a fantasy perspective, I haven't been paying too much attention to the DraftKings DFS as of late. I know Reeves throws out a CFL contest for our Winnipeg Sports Talk group every day. But I'm sure he's quite a popular selection right now when it comes to what he's doing, first of all, with his feet, and then what he's doing throwing it around.
Yeah, he's been quite the scene to watch so far. Let's wrap. We got a couple minutes left here, and then the boys are going to hop on with the oil stream. Matt's going to be in with Tom on that one today, just because of the internet connection here in Regina. I was happy to be able to get through most of the lock shop, but
did you do the morning?
No, I didn't do
today?
the morning. No morning today. No morning.
Who did the heavy lifting? Who filled in?
Tommy and Eric.
Oh, Tommy, nicely done. Look at Gazzola. Look at Gazzola. Just a workhorse for EST, doing the morning show, coming in afterwards. And by the way, shout out to Eric's brother. I know it was a big day. They got a show tonight. The album. It was on the Hangout yesterday. That's some good stuff. I've just through you guys, I've caught a little bit of the whale and the wolf, and if I was there, I would be there.
Not bad, right?
You missed here. Good stuff.
Yeah, they do some good stuff. Much better than the Toronto Blue Jays. Let's wrap with that, Huss. I guess I'm not surprised they lost the 4th one, but I cannot fathom how what was it? The first time in franchise history they got swept in a 4-game set at home, and while doing so, they were outscored 35-9. That is a disaster with a capital D, buddy.
You know what? As I mentioned, we were out last night watching the game, and we had the football game on all the TVs, but we had the Jays on one of them just to keep going. And I swear to God, every time I looked at it, Texas had the bases loaded. Like, that game could have actually been even worse than it ended up at 9-2. They can't hit. They're lifeless right now. And I do agree. If they miss the playoffs, this, I think, will be the most disappointing Blue Jays team ever. And that includes a team that probably should have beat Kansas City and maybe could have won the game in 2015. There's been some good teams that have fallen short. There's so much talent. They've gotten legitimately good pitching all year long. And now they're in absolute free fall right now. And it's a scary, scary spot for the Jays. They are opening a series against the Red Sox tonight. Absolutely have to have it. they got to go on a bit of a run right now. But if you look at the wild card, the Blue Jays now 1.5 games back of Seattle. And I mean, they went into this series, that series, a game and a half up on Texas. They're now 2.5 back of the Rangers. It's dark times right now, despite the fact this team's still 80-67 and very much in the race for a final playoff spot. They don't look like it though right now.
They certainly don't look like it. It's been an extremely frustrating year, and I don't even like what you just said. It. I mean, if they don't make the playoffs, this is the most disappointing Jays team, arguably of all time. What changes do you make? Like, what do you do?
Well, Schneider's out. I'll tell you that much.
Got to be gone, right?
And to be honest, I mean, is Vlad Guerrero? Has he have we just seen so many vignettes about Vladdy, and we've been hearing a great. I mean, I guess he was runner up for MVP, before, but I don't know. Are you investing long term massive money in Vlad after this season?
Did you see that video of Buck breaking down his swing and just said he's completely behind on everything? There's a great video of Buck breaking down his swing, and he just said that he's off. Like, he's just completely off. He just doesn't have it right now. So that's
the other thing is, I mean, like Varsho, I know he's great in the field, but he can't hit. And when you think and look at what they gave up to the Diamondbacks, I mean, that's a real tough look for Atkins and Shapiro. I mean, that Gabriel Moreno, I mean, he was the number 1 prospect in all of baseball, and they traded him and Lourdes, and they got Varsho, and Varsho has been underwhelming, to say the least, at the plate, even though he is a strong defensive outfielder. I know they said, we got to improve our defense, but yikes, what's happened to the
they've sacrificed the bats, and now you see what's happening. Winnipeg Sports Talk today. Huss, what's coming up, buddy?
We had a big show today. Our pal Kenny Weeb, who's on the move from Sportsnet to the Winnipeg Free Press, is joining us. Big move for a local, and
congrats to him.
Ken. Yeah, we're going to tee up the Young Stars tournament and training camp next week with the latest on the Jets. We'll get ready for the Bombers tomorrow against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Winnipeg Jets captain Adam Lowry is joining us live. He was joining us a couple of days ago and did attempt to, but the connection was terrible. And Adam, being the stand-up guy that he is, captain material, apologized profusely. So he's coming on today. Lee Hacksaw Hamilton with our weekly Friday NFL notebook, a marble race to get things going. It'll be a lot of fun. So top of the hour for you folks in the Peg, Winnipeg Sports Talk. We will be live. Look forward to seeing you there. And Dusty, have a great call tonight. And shout out to the boys holding it down for you in the oil stream while you get ready to call some CFL action.
Yeah, exactly. I was a little worried about the internet connection lasting for 2 straight hours. So Matt Iwanik's going to sit in and kind of take Tommy Gazzola through the oil stream today. His rankings of importance are going to continue. So if you're watching on the Edmonton Sports Talk YouTube channel right now, we are going to redirect you over to the oil stream, which will be coming up here right away. And Huss, you know what we're doing around the offices in the afternoon? We're watching Winnipeg Sports Talk. It's on the TV. We all kind of wrap up what we're doing, and we're just sitting around BSing after. And there's you and Remo on the TV, which is awesome.
Join us in the chat. Say hi to the folks. We've got a very vibrant chat community, and actually, we had a great event on Wednesday night where a lot of the folks. It's so cool, and you guys will find this. I mean, now with the platform and where you guys are, the ability to bring people together. But there'll be a lot of people that would have never known each other that can become pretty good friends through the chat. And then some of the events we're putting together, and we're doing that 4-game pack with the Jets this season, which we're really looking forward to. So a lot of good things going on. But you have are you doing the BC game too?
No, I am not. Suits is flying out tomorrow morning to go do that BC game. But I just got the one this week, so I'll be heading home tomorrow. I actually have a Sunday at home with my family.
Who's calling it?
So, I think Farhan's doing that one.
Wow.
That's the first one of the season. So, he's got a few games, and I think that's one of them. So,
perfect.
He'll be on the call with Suits on Saturday. So
perfect. Well, it's not like you've been busy at all lately, so I'm sure that he'll have something on. But anyways, have a great weekend. Enjoy that Saturday, and I'm sure we'll be in touch on Sunday. And folks, again, check out the exclusives. They'll all be up there. Hopefully that Huss will be up there soon. And if you haven't played a cool bet before, use the promo code LOCKSHOP, 100% bonus up to $200. They've also checked the promo as well. If you make a $30 bet on NFL or CFL, you get a free $15 bet come Tuesday, all there in the promo department. Dusty,
beautiful.
Have a good call tonight, man.
Yeah, you too, buddy. We'll talk to you later. For Huss, I am Nielsen. Oil stream coming up here at EdmontonSportsTalk.com. We'll be back inside the Lock Shop on